Hi, Mr. Aiel. First, I want to tell you thank you for coming in today, and just to set the tone for the meeting and let you know what we're going to be talking about today. The teachers and I have gotten together and we have created a behavior intervention plan for your son Joey. This was created by both myself and all the teachers that he sees on a day-to-day basis. But we also want to present it to you and not only show you what we have found and what we're setting forth for him in the future, but also to get some of your input, just to make sure you're clear on it. A behavior intervention plan was created because we've seen some behaviors in your son that are really severe and persistent. They are interfering with the learning of not only himself but also others in his own classroom. And we think that we really need to put forth some interventions so that we can get some positive behaviors out of him and we can make sure that he's really successful in the future. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. Does that sound good to you?
Thanks for catching up with me and setting the tone. How should we move forward?
Okay. Well, we want to show you what we have gathered so far. So the first part of the behavior intervention plan is the student description. Just gives a background for any outsiders and also helps us to collect any data about what might help us with determining a good intervention for your son. So what we have so far, and I want your input here to make sure if you find anything that's inaccurate, let us know. And also if you want to add anything else, then just let me know at that point too, okay? So your son Joey is a 13-year-old boy. He likes to play sports. Specifically, he really likes soccer. He also doesn't like English class, reading, writing, or art class. He has a good sense of humor as observed by his teachers, but he can get irritable throughout the day a little bit. He tends to be more reserved in social types of situations. He's better one-on-one, not so much in the full-on classroom. He's really verbal, yet he struggles to read and write. He also actually reads on a K level if we're looking at his F&P scores. He has a medical diagnosis of childhood onset bipolar disorder and an educational classification for a behavioral disorder. So with that being said, he takes his medication for bipolar disorder on a daily basis. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, his mother also has bipolar disorder. He also really struggles with making friends, and he really likes video games.
Okay, so we can add that in there. And then I think we have a pretty good description about your son so far. Okay, thank you. So we're going to review our specific target behaviors. So there are a few behaviors that we see as being a problem in the class. Specifically, we are seeing really frequent negative outbursts from him. So coming in the form of calling peers, even teachers' names, screaming in class, using profanity. He gets very upset and angry at times. We have done a couple things. So if you look at this document here, we've tracked the frequency, intensity, duration, context, and antecedents for that. So to break it down, the frequency means how often it's happening, right? This was tracked by his school teachers as well as other people who interact with him on a daily basis. And we are noticing that these outbursts occur every morning, most frequently between 9:30 and 10:30, and in the afternoon around 2 o'clock. The intensity, meaning how intense these outbursts really are they small or minor? So they range from just like cursing a couple times at one student to using profanity towards an entire class and a teacher, right? So like small scale to big scale. We see a large difference in intensity there. The duration, so how long these outbursts typically last, they are between 20 minutes at a minimum and can last up to 1 hour as observed a couple times. And the context in which they happen. So where are these occurring? Are there a specific period that it's happening in? Is it only one class? And we kind of are seeing it's typically happening in English class. And antecedent is the last thing that we looked at. And antecedent is what happens before. So it kind of talks about like what could be a possible trigger for these outbursts to be happening. And we noticed that they happen a lot of times after a transition from class to class. When English class begins, right in the beginning, almost every single day, and also after lunch. So those are the three things they look at. What do you think about that?
Well, that makes complete sense. He struggles with change and really struggles with reading and writing.
Absolutely, which leads to our own hypothesis. So we took a look at everything, and after speaking with all his teachers, formed a hypothesis about why this might be happening so that we can really focus on intervening on that specific behavior. So our hypothesis is that he might be doing this to get attention from his classmates and escape the work due to his inabilities in reading and writing. So we talked about how he's struggling to make friends and has a hard time in social situations. By having these outbursts, he gets automatic attention. Automatic attention by all of his classmates, automatic attention by his teachers, right? The focus is on him, which is something he's not typically used to doing. And then also, we think that it might be coming from his struggles with reading and writing, as he reads at a K level in the 7th grade, right? That's not grade level. So when you're struggling and you don't understand what a teacher is talking about all the time, then, you might want to do things to get out of that situation. So because of this, we became making up with some intervention strategies. So intervention strategies specifically look at what the staff needs to do to intervene and help your son, and also what can Joey do to really help himself. So we have these all listed out, and it's a lot of information. If you feel like any of these aren't a best fit for what he did, please chime in and let me know, okay? So specifically, when we talk about staff responsibility, so Joey's going to be given these 5-minute breaks with the school counselor before transitioning upstairs after lunch. We know that transitions are hard. Also, English comes after lunch, so that makes it even more difficult. So he's going to use that time to talk to me, his school counselor, kind of diffuse and talk about how his day's going so far, not in the mindset of English, which could be getting him worked up already. And then we can also maybe even get to what his fears are about English class so he can talk about it himself. And we can check our behavior tracker from then. So this is taking a look at his behavior tracker that we're going to be doing. He's going to be responsible for arriving 5 minutes after the bell on his own. Okay, so after he goes up from me, he can't go wandering in the building. He has to come right back up after 5 minutes. And when he checks in with me, he has to bring that behavior tracker that he's using now. So to help out with the reading aspects, we know he's a few grade levels behind at this point, and that also could be a reason why he's acting out. His English teacher has volunteered to give him extra help on Tuesdays afternoons for 1 hour, so that'll help boost up his grade. He also is going to receive some extra time on papers, 2 days on a maximum, because those can be really difficult if you're struggling with reading and writing. And preferential seating next to a buddy that really works well in English. Not someone that's really a friend, but someone that will push him to be a better student as well. For Joey's responsibility, he needs to be responsible for attending these tutoring sessions, right? He actually has to need to show up, turn in those papers in the window, and also check in with his buddy when he's needed to, okay? Specifically that behavior tracker, if we go back to that, each teacher that he sees throughout a day will be responsible for checking off his behavior tracker. We're checking 3 things: work completion, self-control, which means those verbal outbursts, if he did it or not, and if he's participating in class. Those are all things we want him to receive yeses on, that he showed those in a class. And he shows that to me. If he receives 90% positive remarks on Fridays, he receives a prize. Prizes include homework passes, lunch, candy, break time. We think those are all things that he likes. He's just responsible for making sure he checks in with the teacher with that. How does that look to you?
Looks great to me.
All right. So we know that we want him to exhibit more self-control, minimize those outbursts. So in order to do that, not only do we have these trackers, right, we want to have a reward system for him, and that's kind of where I need your help, okay? So we want to think about things that are going to motivate him and motivate him to act positively. So we thought about, those breaks and homework passes. Is there anything at home maybe that you could also add in as an incentive?
Video games.
Okay, so maybe you could talk with him, get him on the home front. Also, we're going to do some more positive reinforcement. It's really easy to get down on a student when he's not doing well. We want to make sure we're encouraging what he's doing. And then, so lastly, consequences. So we have all those things laid out for him, and we have to present this to Joey as well, make sure he really clearly understands it. But if he is repeating these problem behaviors, we do have 3 sets of consequences. So the first occurrence is detention with the English teacher. So he'll be tutoring and journaling about his behavior, which kind of helps him out on both fronts. The second occurrence, we're going to need you to come in, right, and we'll discuss the plan. Make sure maybe he's not understanding what he needs to be doing. Maybe we need to make some changes. And the third occurrence, we'll have a disciplinary team meeting and he'll have a detention. So that's the more severe one. But I think we'll be able to work until we get to that point.
Okay.
Do you have any questions or anything you want to add before we move forward?
Nope.
Okay. So I guess the next step is we're going to have to present it all to Joey, and we'll get him started this week.
Okay, very good.
Thanks.